To our YP Luncheon. We're lucky to be joined this afternoon by Senator Joni Ernst. She's actually in Washington, D.C. and took some time out of a crazy schedule to speak with us today, so we really appreciate that. I'll take a quick minute to just give a quick thank you to our sponsors, our ultimate sponsors, Medical Associates Clinic and Health Plans, Midwest One, Q Casino, TH Media, our silver sponsors, Cartograph, Collins Community Credit Union, Forge Social, Grand River Center, Grand River Medical Group, John Deere Dubuque Works, Green State Credit Union, Cottingham and Butler, Dupaco Community Credit Union, IIW, Kunkel and Associates, Tyson's, Kitzinger Law Firm, and Pepper Sprout. Thank you to our sponsors. As I mentioned, we have some limited time with Senator Ernst today, so we'll get right into things. Senator Ernst is a native of Red Oak, and she's dedicated her life to her state and country, having served in the military for over 23 years and now serving in the United States Senate. In Washington, Joni serves on 5 Senate committees of major importance to Iowans: Armed Services, Agriculture, Nutrition and Forestry, Environment and Public Works, Judiciary, and Small Business and Entrepreneurship. As a mother, soldier, an independent voice, Joni is committed to bringing Iowa values to Washington, D.C., and to always fight on behalf of families and communities in our state. I'd like to welcome Senator Joni Ernst.
Yay, thank you, Scott, and thank you to our Dubuque young professionals. This is a great opportunity for me to be able to just interact, hear from you, and of course, I've got a whole laundry list here that I'll go through of things that we are working on in Washington, D.C., and some things that might be important to you as well. We do have a vote series that will be starting here shortly, so I'll be with you for maybe close to half an hour before I have to head up to the floor for that vote this afternoon. But some things that I'd like to share with you, and thanks again, this is a great opportunity for me. Of course, one of the big pressing issues of this year is the ongoing pandemic, and COVID-19 really created some challenges across our state, whether that was working, whether it was our healthcare systems, whether it was childcare. So many of those issues have been ongoing, and we have really worked hard in Congress then to construct packages to come together and help support individuals and industry. As we continue to work on another relief package, I am really very focused on what Iowans need to get safely back to work, and of course to make sure that we're providing additional assistance for our families, for our farmers, for those in our healthcare, our industries, and our small businesses. And so what I want to do is focus a little bit on small businesses, because I was, as a part of the Small Business Committee, part of the group that put together our Paycheck Protection Program. And that has been one of the most bipartisan, widely supported programs that we have seen through the various COVID-19 relief packages. So the Paycheck Protection Program did provide forgivable loans for small businesses. And in the state of Iowa, and of course, over 99% of Iowa is built of small businesses, our employers. And so what we saw as a result of the Paycheck Protection Program, we had over 61,000 small businesses that were able to participate in that program, receive dollars from the federal government. And as a result of those 61,000, I'm sorry, the vote clock's going off, but as a result of that 61,000 businesses in Iowa, small businesses that received those loans, the loans totaled $5.1 billion. So that was relief that came into the state of Iowa to keep our small businesses up and going as best we could and keep their employees employed and on their payroll. So we thought that that was very, very, very important. And we have had a number of bumps along the way. I know that if you are with the banking industry, if you are with some of those small businesses, of course, it was one of those efforts to get the dollars out the door as quickly as possible So software issues, networking issues, and then of course, changes to rules and regulations along the way. We were trying to expand it, make it easier for people to receive those dollars, what have you. So we've seen some changes along the way, but hopefully we see that end result is that our small businesses were able to remain, at least most of them, viable through this extremely challenging time. So I always do a 99 county tour every year, just as Senator Grassley has done. I have completed my 6th 99 county tour. Senator Grassley has completed 40, but it has been a really great process for me in a way to get out across the state of Iowa, hear from our farmers, hear from those small businesses that were able to participate in the Paycheck Protection Program, and of course, learn about some of those challenges, and then also learn about the really great parts of the program that really helped those small businesses. So next phase, we do have a lot of things yet to be done, and we are currently working on a COVID relief package. We have one package that will be presented here in about 30 minutes on the floor, and we'll continue working through that. Some of those outstanding issues that came up in the Paycheck Protection Program, 501c3s, or excuse me, 501c6s were not eligible. Those would be our chambers of commerce. And so we're really working hard to make sure that they are included in this next package. And then we still have a number of businesses like restaurants and hotels that are still hurting. Many of them will be shut down and then reopened and then shut down. So providing maybe a second pass and those businesses that were hardest hit during COVID-19, we feel that that's something that is very bipartisan supported. We feel it's something that would help our economy even more. So I am pushing on that. I've also joined in on an effort that's called the Restart Act, and that would help more of the mid-size businesses as they receive low interest loan opportunities through the federal government, and in some cases, grant opportunities through the federal government. So again, that would be for more of the mid-sized industries. Again, Iowa, most of our businesses are small business, but we do have some mid-sized industries as well. One of the biggest issues I've been working on, and even prior to the pandemic, is childcare. It was an issue even prior to the pandemic, and an issue I was working on with a number of colleagues in the United States Senate. So Amy Klobuchar, Dan Sullivan, and I know we had a number of other co-sponsors, were working on a package that would provide training opportunity for childcare workers. It would provide dollars for those physical childcare centers for expansions. So a bipartisan bill that really was broadly supported. Then COVID hit, exacerbated the problem. I do have another bipartisan bill that actually did pass through the Senate, and I was working on that with Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada, a great Democrat to work with. Nevada is very similar to Iowa in that we are considered childcare deserts. And that means that for every slot that's available, we have 3 or more children that are on a waiting list. And so that's a really tough situation to be in. But again, it is a priority for me. And I just think about the times when I was a young mother and my daughter, Libby, after work, of course, she could go to school during the day, but after school hours, then my husband worked a second shift at one of our local factories. And so if my mother wasn't available or my cousin wasn't available, then I would just have to take her back in to work with me to finish the projects I was doing. And while I was able to do that, there are a lot of moms and dads that don't have that same opportunity to take their child into work after hours. And so childcare is a big issue. The availability of it, making sure it's available, but also making sure that it is affordable for many of our families. So during the COVID relief phases, I was able to get $32 million into the state of Iowa for child care supports, but that's just a short-term measure. what I have included in the most recent package that we'll be voting on here shortly is a $15 billion proposal for the United States. And it's a bill that I have sponsored. Lamar Alexander of Tennessee is also a co-sponsor, a sponsor on that legislation. And what the bill would do is provide a 9-month gap assistance program, a bridge gap assistance program. It would be grant opportunity. $10 billion of that would go to the expansion of those child care facilities. $5 billion would go towards a child care development block grant program that would provide supports for our needy families and those that need assistance with those child care expenses. So a great program. It's a little longer term, but folks, we just need to understand, we need to think about it much longer term. So the bill, I should go back, the bill I was working on with Jackie Rosen, it provides grant opportunities or low interest loan opportunities, excuse me, for those through the Small Business Administration, but those small businesses that are nonprofits. Right now, nonprofits cannot go through SBA for loan opportunities. So we want to ensure that we have broader opportunity across the spectrum of those that engage in the childcare space. And we think it's just a wonderful thing to do. Just quickly going, I want to make sure we get to questions, so I'll skip through some of this. Broadband, that's an area that you will be very interested in. In the CARES Act, we did have dollars set aside for broadband, and then recently Governor Reynolds did announce that $50 million of that CARES Act money will be going for rural broadband expansion, which will be very helpful for folks across the state. And then we also had an additional $26 million in the state of Iowa through that CARES Act funding that will go to support remote learning for K through 12 students. So expanding access to broadband, access to childcare, all of those things will really, really help us as we are getting our economy back on our feet there in the state of Iowa. We are still negotiating on a next package, and this really is at this point in Speaker Pelosi's hands. We continue negotiating with our partners here in the Senate. We'll continue moving forward. What we need to ensure, though, is that we are focused on COVID-19 relief. The package in the House currently has a lot of extraneous language focused on things that are well outside of the spectrum of COVID-19. We need to narrow that down and make sure that we are focusing on the pandemic and our way through the pandemic. So I'm going to go ahead and close on that. Hopefully we continue to negotiate in good faith on this final relief package, and hopefully we'll see something, if not before the election, then very soon after. So Scott, I'll go ahead and let's open up for some questions. But I want to thank everybody so much for giving me some time today. I appreciate it.
All right, Joni, thank you so much. We are just thrilled that you're able to be here. And I do have a couple of questions. And if we don't get to all of them, I will get them to your staffers so that way we can get answers to our YPers. But the first question comes from Jack Mesher at Hills and Dales. He starts off by saying, Senator Ernst, thank you for introducing the Frontline Act, which addresses supporting frontline workforce who are largely left out of the initial COVID relief packages. At Hills and Dales, they work to build meaningful lives for individuals with disabilities. Many of their services are 24/7 and very much essential. Shutting down or going virtual is not an option. Throughout this pandemic, it has been our 465 employees who proved themselves as true heroes. They have reported to work in person, complied with extensive new regulations, and faced school shutdowns and daycare closings like many other families. But in many cases, they received the least amount of support from the federal government. What are the conversations you are having in the Senate to pass your Frontline Act? What needs to happen for your legislation to pass? The workforce is feeling it.
Yes, and thank you so much, and to Hills and Dales for what you do. And Mr. Mesher, I'm sure you know Sherry Clark, who is down in Red Oak, Iowa, works with a program there to help those that have intellectual disabilities or other physical disabilities. And this is a very special population to me. And so Sherry has shared a number of concerns. I visited with many different programs like yours across the state. And so the Frontline Act really would benefit our essential workers by providing that payroll tax holiday as well as the individual income tax holiday for those workers. Anyone that is considered an essential worker, you're out there every single day providing services for your clients. And while we haven't gotten the traction that I would like to see, everyone seems to think it's a great idea. We just haven't been able to work ourselves around this one particular bill. There's many different versions that will exist out there, and the president has actually proposed, just a tax holiday across the board for everyone, not just our essential workers, but for everyone. So we do have a few competing interests out there, but I would continue to say, please promote it with various legislators. So with the congresswomen that we have, make sure that you're reaching out to Congresswoman Finkenauer's office, encouraging support of the Frontline Act. If you have friends in other states, encourage them to reach out and ask them to be supportive as well. That's the only way we really get something done, is if we have constituencies reaching out to their members of Congress. We'll present our argument to them, but it is really helpful if they hear from people from their own states really saying, wow, we really would like to see this happen. So I appreciate it. Thank you for what you do. Your clients, really all of our clients across the state of Iowa that are in those circumstances, we want to make sure that they have fulfilling lives and that they are well taken care of. So thanks to you and all the folks at Hills and Dales for being so great to these wonderful, wonderful Iowans.
Excellent. Thank you so much. If we've got time for another question, this one comes from Samantha Bruck with DePaco Community Credit Union, and she would like to know, who is your mentor? Who do you look for inspiration?
Oh, well, being from Iowa, it really is Senator Chuck Grassley. If you're talking about in the Senate space, he is just that, bottom line, through and through Iowan, and he has been through 40 years in the United States Senate, but always very Iowa-centric. And so learning from him, emulating him, he's quite fair across the board, visits all 99 counties, like I said, 40 years in a row, ongoing. And, I really look to that model of supporting constituents. But outside of that, I really look to family as well. My mother has been a great influence in my life, and she grew up in a very, very humble family. Let's put it like that. She lost her father. She didn't know her father. She lost her father while my grandmother was pregnant with two older children. And so they ended up growing up large in part in her younger years in her grandfather's home as he cared for my grandmother and her children. But they grew up in a humble means. She learned to be extremely thrifty, but she learned all of those wonderful farm traits that, carried women through their younger years as farm wives, whether it was sewing, cooking, canning, being the additional farm hand, all of those things she taught all of us kids in my family, and just those work values were really, really important to me growing up. And she inspires me. I would say that she is a mentor. She was not college educated until us kids were much, much older and getting out of the house. She received an associate's degree through the local community college. But again, she's an inspiration to me. She's been through so many hard times and difficult challenges. And through all of that, she encouraged me, just to reach out and work hard. So a couple different mentors on a couple different spectrums. But kudos to Senator Grassley, and of course, all my love to my mother.
wonderful. Love that. And we have a question from Margaret O'Reilly from the Hotel Julian Dubuque. She is interested in how did you get interested in public policy and politics? Was there a specific situation or multiple things that motivated you?
There were all kinds of things that motivated me. That's a really great question. When I was younger, I was active in student government in high school, but the kicker there is that I went to a really small rural community school, high school. I had 24 kids in my graduating class, which means you just have to participate in everything. In order to have a team or a club. So I did participate in all kinds of things at a younger age and then continued to do so when I went off to Iowa State University. But it was after I graduated, I got involved through a friend with my first campaign. And that was the Jim Ross Lightfoot campaign. He was running for governor. And that was an unsuccessful attempt, but it was really eye-opening to engage in a campaign. I never thought that I would be the one running for public office, but later on, it was actually while I was deployed to the Middle East with our wonderful Iowa Army National Guard, that members of my community started reaching out and asking if I would run for Montgomery County Auditor. And there had been a lot of difficulties in the county and in the county courthouse, and a lot of folks were not getting along. So there was just a disruption to services for our citizens in Montgomery County. I ended up running against an incumbent Republican, and I did win that election, and I served as the Montgomery County Auditor for 6 years, and it was fantastic. And I would say that it was really then understanding those local issues, the taxing issues, balancing the budget, watching the different departments' budgets, but then even more so is bringing everyone back together, whether it was our county supervisors, it was all of our county department heads, as well as the elected officials like our county recorder, our county treasurer, myself in the auditor's office, and our sheriff, and sitting down and having department meetings every month. So everybody was in sync and understanding what was going on in everybody else's world. They had operated so independently because of the contention and the real acrimony within the courthouse that they just weren't paying attention to each other's needs, and it wasn't that well-oiled machine. So we really had to fix that. And I think that really gave me an advantage moving forward and delving into politics a little bit more, and understanding that in order to get things done, we have to work together. And I have been ranked as one of the most bipartisan senators from any state of either party in the last 25 years in the United States Senate. So something I'm very proud of. But it was really because of that early start in politics as a county auditor that I really learned to appreciate our government at all levels. I went on to serve in the state Senate and now the United States Senate, and I really enjoy working on those policy issues, but understanding how does that apply to people in their everyday lives.
Thank you, Joni. I have another question about your military career. When did you decide to join the Marines and why?
Well, it was actually the Army.
Army, I'm sorry. Okay.
Because I could read, and so I went into the Army instead of the Marines. That was a joke.
There's no Marines on the call.
I love our Marines. The joke is always they issue Marines coloring books and crayons and then go to basic. But no, I love our armed services, and it really was an honor to serve in that capacity. And so the reason I decided to join, it's a long story. I don't have time for that. I've maybe got time for one more question after this, but I decided to join because I was part of an agricultural exchange to Ukraine in 1989 when I was between my freshman and sophomore year of college. Again, it was an ag exchange to Ukraine. 1989, they were still part of the Soviet Union. So when I went on that ag exchange on their farm, the collective farm that I lived on for about 2.5 weeks, they were still using horses and wagons to do farming. They still had an outhouse. I had to pump water at the well. So it was very different farming in a socialist country at that time than in the United States, where, you know, I grew up on a small family farm, but for heaven's sakes, we had tractors, you know, we had combines, we had modern, you know, what we would consider modern necessities like running water and flushing toilets. So, you know, just understanding that concept at that time, their form of government. When we got together in the evenings in Ukraine at the community center, you know, their citizens could care less about Iowa agriculture. They were very, very interested in our form of government. And the first question that they asked was, what is it like to be an American? And what is it like to be free? And that made a significant impression on me. And I just knew that I need to be able to contribute to my country in some manner or fashion. And the way I felt I could best do that was to wear the uniform and really uphold our values. So kind of a long story, but I've been so proud to serve both in the United States Army Reserves and then in the Iowa Army National Guard. I retired as a lieutenant colonel after over 23 years of service. I served with some of the best men and women that you will find in uniform anywhere, our Iowa Army National Guardsmen.
Well, that's another thing we thank you for is your service to the country. If you've got time for one more question, this comes from Tori Freeze. Tori Freeze from DePaco. The student loans have been deferred and 0% during the year, which is great, but the worry is come next year with these loans and young families that are still trying to recover from this year and might not have the money to pay. What has been the discussion for next year in the CARES Act as it relates to student loans?
Yeah, I think this is something that we can address in a larger package. And like I said, I'd love to see that before the election and if not soon after. Because whether we can make those zero interest loans or go ahead and allow opportunity for renegotiation of loans, maybe longer terms, deferred payments, all of that should be on the table. Student loan debt is a big concern right now, and we find that our young professionals, as they're coming out of college, many of them are delaying getting married and starting a family, or they won't purchase a home in their community because of the student loan debt. And that is something that we absolutely must overcome. I do have a provision, an act out there. It has not passed through the Senate yet, but I think it's a brilliant idea, is to allow employers to help repay already assumed college debt. Right now, employers, if they send someone to college or they have an employee that's currently in college, they can get tax credit for paying part of that student loan. But if you already have an employee that's just joining you, they've already got their degree, they have student loan debt, those employers don't get any tax credit even if they're offering to help repay those loans. I think this would be a greater incentive, get employers engaged and help paying down that student loan debt. So there's a number of different ideas out there for longer term solutions, more than just what we're seeing through the COVID relief packages, but I think everything should be on the table. Let's start discussing it and getting it wrapped into that package so that our young professionals coming out of college, they can engage in those activities that they want to. They shouldn't have to put their lives off because of student debt. So, and I think that's it. I have got to get up to the floor, but I really appreciate the time with you today. Justine, Scott, thank you. All of our young professionals, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Joni. We appreciate it and good luck today. I know that Joni staffers are going to be staying on the call with us. So if anybody wants to stay on and send some more questions in, and we will also be sending our questions to Joni so that way she can answer them when she's available. So thank you again, Senator.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe and stay strong.
All right. So with that being said, if the staffers who are on, if you guys want to kind of show yourselves here for a little bit, and I'll have you guys introduce yourselves and see if we have any questions.
Hi guys, this is Tyler with Senator Ernst's office. I work on tax issues, small business, financial services, and education for Senator.
All right.
And I'm from Sioux City, Iowa originally.
Thank you. I'm trying to see who else is on here. Tyler, if
Hi, everyone.
Anna.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Brittany.
Hey everyone, this is Brittany Carroll. I'm joining you from my car. I'm in between events right now, so I'm going to have to jump off in a little bit. But I work for the senator here in Eastern Iowa, out of Cedar Rapids, but cover the Dubuque area.
Anybody else on today?
Hi, this is Anna Breen with Senator Ertz's office. I handle healthcare, labor, and veterans affairs.
Thank you guys all for staying on. If anybody had any questions for any of the staffers, we will stay on here for a couple more minutes. And if nothing comes up, then we will go ahead and end a little early today and just get any questions you have for the senator that we will submit to our staffers to be answered at a later date. So feel free to use the chat function if you do have anything. I have a couple that came in earlier. And Scott, feel free to jump on and share some words of wisdom if anybody has anything. I don't want to eat up everybody's time. I don't see anything coming in at this moment, but if you do have any questions, please submit that to office@dubuquechamber.com, and we will get a list over to the senator who will be happy to answer those at a later time. We are so grateful that we had her for a little bit, and she was able to put us, make us a priority in our schedule. Thank you to everyone who attended today, and if anybody has any questions, contact the chamber office or one of our amazing YP board members, and stay tuned for information about next month's YP Luncheon. Thank you all for being here today.